Enjoy the program. Hi, everyone. As Sue said, my name's Nicole Fuller. I'm a registered dietitian. Welcome. This is exciting because I joined Valley February of 2020. So I was there for a month and then everything shut down. So all of my presentations after March of 2020 have been virtual. So this is our first one back. So it's kind of exciting. And I don't know how many people know this, but March is also National Nutrition Month. So it's great that we're back in person now and to have you guys at home as well be able to join us. That's still great too. But it's great that we're coming back with a nutrition themed program. So a little bit about me. I've been a dietitian for over 20 years now, which seems crazy to me because when I hear people say that they've been in their careers for over 20 years, it always sounds like they must be experts or something. So for me to say it, I can't believe I'm that old already. So anyway, without further ado, we're here to talk about nutrition as we age. And like I said, it's great because we're talking about nutrition in this month. As we age, I don't think this topic is talked about enough. There are different things we need to take into consideration as we age. Oh, am I not talking loud enough? Sorry. Also, I forget that the mask. As we age, our nutritional needs change a little bit. There's more things we have to consider and make the choices we make as far as food. I don't think it's talked about enough as well. So it's a really good topic. Let me see. Why is my slides? Technical. Okay. So I love this cartoon. I thought it was funny and I wanted to include it. The doctor, they're, in the doctor's office and the doctor is saying to the patient, I want you to follow a healthy style, whatever the experts say that is this week, which is so true. I mean, how many of us every week there's something new out there, whether it's a supplement or a diet or a this or that, and you never know what to do or think. Well, that's what we're going to try and clear up some things in this presentation so that hopefully you'll get a takeaway and consider what I have to say during this presentation. So what are we going to learn about today? There are a handful of things. First, we're going to talk about metabolism and how that changes as we age. We're going to talk about the importance of fruits and vegetables, which has been drilled into everybody's head, but do we know why we're supposed to eat them and why they're important to include in our diets? We're going to talk about protein, how much protein we should be eating, the choices of protein that we should be choosing, as well as the variety of different types of proteins that there are. We're going to talk about fiber and its importance, especially as we age, the different types of grains. The grains is, the carbohydrate category. And we're going to talk about fluid, non-caffeinated, non-alcoholic beverages, why we need to be making sure we're getting enough fluid in our diets as we age, drinking enough fluids, I should say. And we're going to do some honorable mentions, some specific key nutrients that we should focus on as we age as well. And then last but not least, I'm just going to touch on activity and sleep because we could talk about nutrition all day long and why we should be eating certain things, but for an overall healthy, balanced life, physical activity and sleep need to be included in that. And then at the end, we'll open it up to any questions. So first things first, I'm sure we all know that as we age, our metabolism slows down, unfortunately. So which means as our metabolism slows down, our calorie needs decrease. Another way to put it is that as older adults, we may need less calories to maintain our current weight. So as you age, your metabolism slows down, you need less calories. But if you continue to eat the same way you've always have, what's going to happen? You're going to gain unwanted weight. Okay, so we got to kind of have to figure out the best foods to choose and ways to go about it, right? Um, the one main issue, no, there's many issues with the metabolism slowing down. We do need fewer calories, but that does not mean we need any less nutrients. In fact, there are some nutrients we want to make sure we're getting enough of or even more of, because as we age, the way we process some vitamins and minerals decreases. So it's a balancing act. We need fewer calories, but sometimes more nutrition. So there is a way to do it. Eating nutrient dense foods, eating foods that give you the most bang for your buck. That means foods that are giving you the vitamins, minerals, fiber, protein, but giving you the least amount of calories. It also takes, discipline and making better food choices in the end. Okay. So that's about metabolism. So moving on to fruit, and I know lots of people come up to me lately and ask me about fruit. Isn't fruit bad for you because it contains sugar? Fruit, I would rather you eat fruit than eat cookies. Fruit has natural sugar, of course, but fruit is something we should all be including in our diets. It is not bad. Fruit is naturally low in fat and calories. It has no cholesterol, which is great, right? Some of the many vitamins and minerals that I'll be talking about are essential nutrients that fruit contain, one being potassium. Why is potassium good to be including in our diet, especially as we age? The reason being is that there are studies that have shown that it may help lower the risk for high blood pressure, as well as lowering the risk of osteoporosis, two things that we worry about as we age, and as well as decreasing your risk of overall heart disease. Now, it should be said, when we're talking about eating healthy, like things like eating fruit, it will improve our overall life if we're including it in an overall healthy lifestyle and eating overall healthy. If you eat the way you always eat, and they then say, well, if I have a piece of fruit, it's going to help me, lower my risk of heart disease. Not necessarily. It needs to be included in an overall healthy diet, right? Fruit also has fiber in it, and fiber is one of the topics we'll talk about later, but fiber is important because research has shown us that it can help reduce cholesterol. Fiber can help reduce cholesterol, which if we lower our cholesterol, we also can reduce our risk of heart disease. And like I said, we'll get into fiber a little bit more later, but fruit is a source of fiber. Fruit, vitamin C, also very important nutrient. It helps in the growth and repair of body tissues, also for our immunity. Some good sources of vitamin C as far as fruit, obviously the citrus fruits like oranges and grapefruits, berries like strawberries, mango, kiwi, cantaloupe. And I forgot to mention for potassium, some of the good sources of potassium are things like bananas, prunes, oranges, cantaloupe, kiwi. Now, there are other fruits that contain this, but these are just some basic ones. So I knew the next question that most people are going to ask, well, if I'm going to have fruit, how much should I be eating? Well, I have this here to talk about how much fruit you should be eating. For women 60 and over, it's recommended about 1.5 to 2 cups of fruit a day. And men 60 and over, it's about 2 cups a day. Now, what is a cup of fruit? Well, it could just be that, you get a measuring cup and measure a cup of grapes, a cup of cantaloupe or watermelon. It could also mean a cup of 100% fruit juice. If you're going to use juice as a fruit, I would limit it to 1 cup a day. Fruit juice may have some vitamins in it, but it's not as good as the whole fruit itself. 1 cup of fruit, a half a cup of dried fruit is also considered like 1 cup of fruit. I guess we can also use it as a 1 serving. So if we say women should get about 1.5 to 2 servings of fruit a day, using you know, half a cup of dried fruit, 1 cup of other fruit. I know sometimes it's hard to say, well, if I have an apple, what size should the apple be? I usually tell people the size of the fruit should be about a baseball. So if you go to the grocery store and you're like, well, what is 1 cup? You know, an apple would be about the size of a baseball. Same thing as like an orange or a peach. Nowadays, when you go get fruit, sometimes the apples are as big as a grapefruit, for instance. So, you know, you might want to cut that apple in half and count that as a serving. Okay, so now we are moving on. Why is this forwarding? Oh, too far. Vegetables. Oh my goodness. There we go. Okay, so just as with fruit, a diet containing vegetables, along with an overall healthy diet, has been shown to decrease your risk of chronic disease, which again is very important and something we need to think about as we age. We want to make sure we're getting the most nutrients out of our food, and vegetables is a great way to do that, right? Most vegetables are low in fat, low in calories, no cholesterol because it's a plant food. So it's a great, again, bang for your buck. You can eat a lot of vegetables. They are going to be low in calories, but have a lot of nutrients and a lot of fiber. So they're also great for weight loss because you can eat a lot of them. They fill you up because of the fiber, but they're low in calories. Okay. That's as long as we're not adding a lot of dressings and sauces and stuff, eating vegetables as they are. Let's see, other things about fruits, vegetables. Oh, and vital nutrients that some vegetables have, and these are just a few. Just like fruit, they've got fiber in it, great source of fiber, potassium, vitamin C, and they also contain a vital nutrient, vitamin A, which is good for your eyes, your skin, and to help prevent infections. Some good sources of vitamin A are here listed here: spinach, carrots, sweet potatoes, red peppers, kale. And just as like fruit, I'm usually going to get the question, how much should I be eating? What's the serving size? So before we talk about that, I forgot, I always want to include this. I don't know how many people have heard the term eat the rainbow or eat your vegetables in color. This can go along with fruit as well. The reason that we say eat the rainbow is because of phytonutrients. Phytonutrients are part of what give plants, fruit and vegetables, their color. And there are thousands of phytonutrients, so I couldn't even tell you some of their names, but there's thousands of them, and they're still being researched today. But they are very beneficial in helping prevent chronic diseases. So when we're talking about fruits and vegetables, we want to eat the rainbow, eat all of the colors, try and eat a variety of different ones because each one provides their own healthy benefit. Okay. So when you're thinking about what you're going to choose to eat when it comes to fruit and vegetables, try to pick something from each color. Listed here, I just have the vegetables, but you know, we could talk about what is red as far as fruit: strawberries, apples, green, grapes, green apples, purple, I would say maybe blueberries. I'm missing probably a ton. Orange, we can go with, what are some orange fruit? Mango, or would you consider that yellow? Papaya, maybe. Yellow, bananas, pineapple. We want to eat a variety, so we're making sure we're getting all those different phytonutrients to help prevent chronic disease. So it really makes you think sometime. And we're almost getting into the season where we're going to see farmers markets, which is a great way to also try new fruits and vegetables. Go to your local farmers markets, talk to the farmers. You're going to be able to try different things, include them in your diet. Things you might have never tried before, you might find out that you actually really enjoy eating. So vegetables, how much do you need? Well, for women 16 over, about 2 to 3 cups a day. Men, it's about 2.5 to 3.5 cups a day. How many of you think that you're getting the recommended amount? For women, do you think you're getting the recommend? One thinks they're getting enough. Oh, two, all right. Most people that I meet with, when I ask them, you know, I do a food recall, they tell me what they have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And we get to lunch and dinner, and sometimes they have a vegetable, most of the times not. Oh, maybe a couple times a week. 2 to 3 cups. If you try and focus on getting those 2 to 3 cups a day, again, bang for your buck, the most nutrition. They're so beneficial. How much is 1 cup of vegetables? It's 1 cup of raw or cooked vegetables, or if you did a cup of vegetable juice. Yes, a cup of vegetable juice is counted as 1 serving, but I would definitely go for real vegetables over any kind of juice. You could also 2 cups of leafy green vegetables. So if you're having a salad, 2 cups of the salad, the leafy lettuce, is considered 1 serving. Okay, that's because of the volume. You could 1 avocado is considered a serving, a large bell pepper, and 1 sweet potato. Those are also, just to give you an idea. And if you ever wonder, you know, how would I visualize a cup without using a measuring cup? They usually say if you put your hands together, like palms both together, the inside of your palms is about 1 cup. If you go, you know, just use your one hand, the inside of your cup is considered, the inside of your hand is considered about 1/2 a cup. So this is 1/2 a cup, this is 1 cup, just as a visualization. Next up is protein. So it's important to make sure we're getting enough protein as we age. Every cell in our body, it contains protein. It's the building block for skin, hair, bone, nails. As we age, we lose muscle. If we're losing muscle, we're losing strength as well, okay? So we wanna make sure we're getting enough protein in our diet so that we're not losing as much muscle. There's actually a term as we age, the gradual loss of muscle as you age is called sarcopenia, okay? I don't know if that's a term that you've heard before, but to try and prevent that, we wanna make sure we're eating enough protein, okay? You don't always wanna get your protein from meat sources. There are other sources as well that you can get your meat from, your protein from: nuts, seeds, soy as well. Those are some other ways to go. And protein in your diet to help decrease that muscle mass loss is important as you age, because if you're losing muscle mass, it could lead to more weakness. You're not as independent because you're not as strong because you're losing muscle. I mean, yes, exercise is important, of course, to keep you strong, but so is diet and protein. You want to maintain your independence. How much protein do we need as we age? Well, women 60 and over, they need about 5 to 6 ounce equivalents per day. Men 60 and over, it's about 5.5 to 6 ounces equivalent a day. And as I mentioned, some things that are considered protein, we all know, like beef, poultry, fish and seafood, eggs, but also nuts, seeds, beans, lentils are all protein containing. So we don't have to just think of protein as being coming from meat. There's a variety of different ways to get protein in our diet. What is 1 ounce of protein? Well, it's 1 ounce of meat or poultry or seafood, fish. It could be a 1/4 cup of beans, a tablespoon of any kind of nut butter. 1 egg is considered an ounce equivalent of protein, as well as 1/2 ounce of nuts or seeds is an ounce equivalent, okay? So if you're thinking about, you know, having protein, we should get protein with, you know, try and get it with each meal. So say you're setting up your day and you're thinking about protein. If you did an egg in the morning, like 1 hard-boiled egg or 1 scrambled egg, that would be 1 ounce equivalent, right? lunch, say you're going to have, you know, some tuna or salmon on a salad. Um, you could do 2 ounces there. Then dinner, another 3 ounces. That would be 6 ounces of protein right there. And to give you an idea, 3 ounces of like meat, fish, chicken, 3 ounces is about the size of a deck of cards. Or they say use the palm of your hand. That's about three ounces, just to give you an idea. All right. And when we're choosing protein and when we're choosing meats, you do want to limit the red meat, the beef, as much as possible because it is higher in saturated fat. Saturated fat is what's the worst thing for heart disease and cholesterol. Saturated fat is what can raise our cholesterol. Okay. If you do red meat, I would recommend for ground beef, 93% lean ground beef or higher if you can find it. Or when you're picking out meat at the grocery store, you want to look at the meat, try and get meat that's as red as possible with as little of the white running through it. The white is called marbling, and that is fat. When you're choosing poultry, you want to remove the skin. That's where the saturated fat is, in the skin of the poultry. The leaner poultry would be the white meat over the dark meat as well. And you want to vary your protein. Again, don't just focus on getting your protein from meats. You can get it from plant foods as well. Like I said, tofu is a source, nuts, beans, lentils. If you want to come up with ideas, if you're like, I don't even know how to make a meal just from plant-based, there's actually a website called Meatless Monday. So if you go to meatlessmonday.com and you start your week off with doing no meat, meaning no fish, no anything on Monday except for plant-based protein, that's a great website with many resources, many recipes you might start to incorporate into your diet. Okay. So omega-3 fatty acids. So it should be known heart disease is a leading cause of death in the elderly. So that's why I think I talk so much about, including fruits and vegetables and fiber and lean protein in your diet, because those are better choices when it comes to lowering your risk of heart disease, okay? Omega-3 fatty acids not only may lower your risk of heart disease, but they may help maintain healthy brain function. What does that mean? It may help decrease your risk of cognitive decline, all right? So, which is very important. So we want to make sure we're getting some omega-3 fatty acids in our diet. Some good source, I'm sure you've heard over and over again, you should have fish at least once a week. And the reason being is because, well, it's a good source of protein, but it also contains omega-3 fatty acids, okay? Some good sources would be salmon, tuna, halibut, oysters, sardines. These are just to name a few. But again, just like with protein, you don't have to only get your omega-3s from meat sources. You can get it from plant-based sources like flax seeds and chia seeds. I don't know if anybody's familiar with them or have heard of them. Walnuts also have omega-3 fatty acids if you're looking for an alternate source. Soybeans as well. Now, with chia seeds and flax seeds, I always recommend to get them ground and don't buy the whole seeds themselves, because when you eat chia seeds or flax seeds, it's kind of like sesame seeds. They don't really get digested and you don't get the benefits from it. It'll kind of pass right through you. So you could buy the ground ones. They sell them pretty much at any grocery store. I've seen them at Trader Joe's, at ShopRite, Stop and Shop. They are also have protein in them. They have fiber in it. What I like to do, I will take flaxseed. I put it in my oatmeal, the ground flaxseed. That's a way to add it to your diet. If you eat yogurt, you could put it in yogurt, sprinkle it on your salad. If you're making pancakes, you could put it in the pancake mix. It's just another way to add a little bit more nutrition to your diet. Okay, why are we not? I There we go. Okay, fiber. Now we're moving on to fiber. Okay, so as we age, fiber is important for a number of reasons. As we age, we tend to be less active. What happens when you're less active? Well, it, it's kind of like your muscles, everything kind of gets weak. So everything might start to back up, causing constipation. As we age, we also might take more medications. Some medications, a side effect may be constipation. Um, Bottom line is constipation is a common problem as we age in the aging population, which is why fiber is so important and why we talk about it. Fiber can help relieve constipation. Not only that, there are other great benefits to fiber. Diet high in fiber has been shown to reduce the risk of heart disease. How does that work? Well, if you're eating a diet high in fiber and the cholesterol that we eat, the fiber binds with the cholesterol in our GI tract, and it's kind of like fiber is a sweeper. It kind of like sweeps it out of our system. It's like a broom. It gets rid of it. Okay, so fiber can help not only relieve constipation, but help with cholesterol and heart disease. And for type 2 diabetics as well, it can help control blood sugar. So making sure we're getting a diet with enough fiber can help with blood sugar control. I tell all my type 2 diabetics this as well. Not only that, eating diet high in fiber, if you're concerned about your weight, foods that have fiber in it keep you fuller longer. So why is that beneficial? You're going to tend to not eat as much. When people come to me for weight loss issues, I always tell them, when you eat your lunch and dinner, obviously we're going to have vegetables with it, right? Because we got to get our 2 to 3 cups in a day. Eat your vegetables first. Half of your plate should be vegetables. And we already talked about all the benefits, but if you're worried about your weight, filling up on vegetables, it's going to keep you fuller longer. It's got fiber in it, which will help you maintain your weight or help you lose weight. So most people in general, I think the average is 16 grams. I feel like I heard that the average intake of fiber a day is 16 grams. I could be wrong. It might be lower, but I do know that most people don't get enough fiber in their diet. It is recommended for, the Institute of Medicine recommends for over 50 years of age, men should get about 30 grams of fiber a day, women 21 grams, which to me seems a little low, but if you're aiming for 21, that is great because you're probably not getting that now anyhow. Fiber is, fiber is, you can find in fruits, vegetables, but also, like I said, chia seeds, flax seeds, whole grains, which is what we're going to talk about next, but also nuts and seeds. So grains, okay. Grains are pretty much any food that's made from wheat, oats, barley, cornmeal, rice, other cereal grains. Those are grains. Some people might call it starch, carbohydrate, but this is our grain group, okay? There are essentially 2 types of grains you might be familiar with. There are whole grains and there are refined grains. The difference is that the whole grains are, like you would expect, intact, while refined grains, they've been milled to remove the bran and the germ. And in this milling process, they're also removing other nutrients. Iron can be removed, fiber can be removed, and some B vitamins are removed during this process. This is why I often say, or you might hear other people say, choose whole grains over refined grains. And as a matter of fact, when choosing grains, at least half of the grains you eat a day should be whole grains for the reason of removing of these key nutrients. There are refined grains that have been fortified, meaning they've added nutrients back to it. But I often wonder, is it the same once you've removed it and then you're just adding it back? Is it the same as if you just left it intact? And plus they're not adding the fiber back. So I always still recommend go for the whole grains. There are numerous type of grains. Some I just wanted to give you an idea that it's not just rice or quinoa or couscous. Nowadays, you go into any grocery store, you'll see a number of different types of grains. I myself, sometimes I'm afraid to try something new. What if I don't like it? What if I don't know how to cook it? But to be honest, they're all sort of similar in their cooking methods. It's all kind of like rice. So try something new. Do barley, farro, buckwheat. They're all great, and it's going to give you variety. So that's just a little example. All right, now fluid. This is something that usually when someone comes to my office and I ask them, oh, how much water are you drinking? Not enough. That is usually the standard answer. I don't know if they're afraid to tell me how much they really drink, because I never get a straight answer out of anyone. They just say not enough. But we do want to make sure we're drinking enough non-caffeinated beverages. Aging can actually make you more prone to dehydration. There's a couple of reasons for this. And I feel like we all know this. We know that we should be drinking more, but as we age, we tend to drink less and not more or not enough. Not drinking enough water can put you at risk for developing urinary tract infections, which can be dangerous as you're older. It could put you, constipation is another thing if you're not drinking enough water. And after this talk, if you go home and you realize you should be adding more fiber to your diet, I'm going to recommend that you also start drinking more water, because if you add more fiber to your diet, just for benefits, nutrients, all this stuff and fiber, if you're not drinking enough water, that will constipate you as you add more fiber to your diet. So, if you're more fiber, add more water. Why do we tend to drink less as we age? There's a couple of reasons. We don't feel thirsty. We don't have that, we can't detect the thirst as much. We don't want to be a nuisance. We don't want to have to stop to use a restroom, or we don't want to find a restroom when we're out and about. You don't want to wake too often in the middle of the night. That could be another reason. I totally get it, but I'm just encouraging you to increase your fluids. And I'm not saying you have to go from drinking 8 ounces or 64 ounces. I'm not saying you should go from drinking 1 glass a day to drinking 10. Do it gradually. The old saying is 8-ounce glasses a day for 64 ounces. You could do it that way. I have also heard, as I put on the screen, half of your weight in ounces should be a goal. So if you're 150 pounds, that would be about 75 ounces, which is a lot. So again, if you're only drinking a cup of water a day, maybe increase it to 2 cups a day, and then try and gradually get into it. Carry a cup with you. There's probably an app that you can put on your phone to track your water intake. There's apps for everything, but just making sure you're getting enough water. I do also want to talk about a couple of key nutrients when it comes to aging that are important. Calcium and vitamin D are important for bone health. I think we all know that. We just want to be a little more conscious of them both as we age. Calcium helps build and maintain healthy bones. Why do we want to have vitamin D when we're having calcium? It's because vitamin D helps the body absorb the calcium that we eat. So why is it important to think about calcium and vitamin D as we age? A couple reasons. As we age, the absorption of calcium can go down. All right, so we're not absorbing calcium as much, and vitamin D deficiency. So if we're deficient in vitamin D, we can't absorb the calcium as well. We could be deficient in vitamin D because our body is not as good at producing it anymore, because our body does produce it. That's one reason. So basically, if our body's not absorbing calcium as much from the diet, and we're vitamin D deficient, this can lead to increased bone loss and an increased risk of fractures. And I know someone's probably going to ask, should I be taking a vitamin D supplement? I would bet most of us are vitamin D deficient. If you're concerned, I always say talk to your doctor. They can do a blood test. They might even have one on file. They might have just never told you the results. They can tell you how much you should be taking. Sometimes they recommend higher doses and then to decrease as time goes on if it's really that low. But it's an easy blood test you can find out. You can also try to increase your intake of both of these nutrients. Calcium, obviously the dairy group is your best bet. So milk, yogurt, cheese. Like if you wanted a snack, a string cheese is a great snack. It's got some protein in it. It has calcium in it. Cottage cheese, if you like cottage cheese. Green leafy vegetables contain calcium as well. So spinach, kale, bok choy, collard greens. And you can also, if you're not a milk person or a dairy person, that's okay too, because you can do calcium fortified plant-based milk alternatives. Okay, so if you do plant-based milks like almond milk, soy milk, any of those, make sure it's fortified with calcium. Okay, sources of vitamin D. Fish is one, like salmon, herring, sardines, egg yolks, tuna. Again, if you're not someone that eats much of those or enjoys them, you can do dairy and plant fortified items with vitamin D. Okay, so if you're going to do plant-based things, just check to make sure that they're fortified with vitamin D. And there are some fortified cereals fortified with vitamin D. I believe they are, oh, did I write them down? Oh, I forgot. I'm not sure which ones they are, but it's probably Cheerios, I know, is fortified with iron. It's probably fortified with vitamin D as well. Another nutrient that is important as we age is vitamin B12. There are studies that have shown that people over the age of 50 have the decreased ability to absorb this vitamin from the food that we eat. So because of this, we may become deficient in this vitamin. The reason for the deficiency is you need stomach acid to properly process and digest vitamin B12. What happens as we age is that a lot of times we have decreased stomach acid. So if you don't have enough stomach acid, you can't properly digest and absorb vitamin B12. Another reason why would be what kind of medication are we, as we age, are we put on? Antacids, right? Some people have the opposite problem. They have too much acid and they put people on antacids, meaning not as much acid production. So you're not going to process vitamin B12 as easily. So that's why you might be at risk for vitamin B12 deficiency. If you're a vegetarian or you have a mostly plant-based vegan lifestyle, you're not going to eat sources rich in vitamin B12. So that may be another reason for vitamin B12 deficiency. There are some sources, ways you can get it in your diet. A lot of animal-based foods, clams, tuna, salmon, beef, milk, cheese, yogurt, eggs. I listed here, there are some fortified plant-based milks have vitamin B12 in it. Nutritional yeast is something. It's something you might have never heard of. I've seen it at Trader Joe's. It kind of tastes like cheese, to be honest with you. I bought it one day because I'd heard about it. You can like sprinkle it on your salads. You can sprinkle it on vegetables. It has a pleasant taste. It's a little salty, but it does have vitamin B12 in it. And there are some fortified cereals. This I did take note of. Cheerios, Total Corn Flakes, All Bran, and Rice Chex are fortified with vitamin B12. Okay. So we talked about all these things that we want to try to incorporate in, our diets for optimal health. What if you don't like to eat healthy food? To be honest, it is possible to retrain your brain to want to eat healthy foods. I have 3 bullet points for this. Keep an open mind. You know, don't go into it thinking healthy food is boring and bland and disgusting. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes it takes a little effort, yes, but you know, try and make small changes at once. People come to see me, they tell me, just give me a meal plan, just tell me what I should be eating. Well, if you're eating terrible for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I give you a meal plan and I tell you to eat, you can't eat any of the things you wanted to eat, but now you have to eat vegetables all 3 meals, you're going to walk out and I'm never going to see you again because you're changing everything. I encourage make small changes. If you don't eat fruit at all, have 1 piece of fruit a day. Or maybe that's too much for you to ask. Maybe instead of 7 days a week, try out having fruit 3 days a week. Make gradual small changes and you're more likely to stick with the changes that you're making. Listen to your body and how you feel. You might start to see that if you're incorporating these healthier foods or items or adding more fruits and vegetables and fiber, drinking more water, you might actually realize that you're starting to feel better. You might have more energy. You might lose some weight. Okay, so these are 3 takeaways if you don't like healthy food. Honorable mention as far as health overall as we age. And I think that this we don't talk about enough at all, but physical activity. I'm not saying you have to start a new whole exercise regimen. If you don't do anything at all, maybe ask your doctor, you know, is it okay if I start exercising? But even walking, you know, any little thing, even chair exercises. If you go home, if you have a computer, you can probably go on YouTube and search up chair exercises and start doing some exercises while you're seated if that's what it has to be. But you want to maintain your muscle mass, and being active will keep you independent longer. Sleep is so important too. 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night is recommended for adults. I don't know many people that do that, but it is important. Overall health, 7 to 8 hours. Believe it or not, getting less than that has been linked to weight gain, poor health, and even some chronic diseases. So a part of a healthy diet included with physical activity, sleep, hydration, very important. Now, I know we talked a lot. I threw a lot out there. Another good resource is the website myplate.gov. It's on the bottom of this slide right here, myplate.gov. It's the USDA website. I mean, they've got a ton of information about, they talk about all the different food groups. They talk about, nutrition through the different ages, but they also have recipes on there. And if you walk away just with one thing in mind, when you go to make your breakfast, lunch, or dinner, kind of keep this plate in the back of your head. A quarter of your plate should be whole grains. A quarter of your plate should be healthy, lean protein. I would say lunch and dinner, half your plate should be vegetables. And maybe breakfast is where you have the fruit. Believe it or not, I think people overlook vegetables at breakfast, but there are ways to add it. I was actually a little proud of my husband this morning. He had some mini peppers for breakfast, along with a hard-boiled egg and an apple. I was like, wow, you're having vegetables for breakfast. But you can, if you do an omelet, you can saute some, onions, spinach, tomatoes, and add the egg. If you don't want to do the whole egg, you could do the egg whites if you're concerned about it. But that's kind of how our plate should look, okay? And that kind of sums it up. And if you're doing this, at least you're getting your grains, you're getting your lean protein, you're getting your fruit and vegetables, so you're going to get the vitamins and the minerals and the fiber. So wrapping it up. All right, again, we talked about a lot. As we age, our metabolism slows down. We need less calories, but we need to be eating the right amount of nutrients, and sometimes even more. Eat your fruit and vegetables first. Fruit and vegetables, the vegetables, again, are going to keep you fuller longer, lower in calories. They got a lot of fiber. Vary your protein. Go to meatlessmonday.com, see what tips you can come up with so you're adding a little bit more plant-based protein to your diet. Fiber is important, again, to keep things regular and flowing. Lowers your risk of heart disease, helps control blood sugar. Grains, focusing on the whole grains, making sure you're drinking enough water, more water. Calcium, vitamin D, and B12, those are our honorable mention vitamins as we age. And move your body and make sure you're getting enough sleep. And now I'm opening it up to any questions you might have, or to any questions you might have at home. I don't know if Sue is going to bring me over any questions. Yes, question.
But am I losing some of the fibers from whole? I do get whole wheat gluten free. Is that equal to regular whole wheat for people?
I'm sorry.
I'm gluten sensitive.
Okay.
But I get the bread that are whole wheat gluten free.
Okay.
Is that equivalent to having whole wheat?
As long as it's a whole grain gluten free bread, yeah, that's fine. Let me just repeat the question for those people at home. So the question was, someone who's gluten sensitive, they get the whole wheat or whole grain, well, it wouldn't be whole wheat, but the whole grain gluten-free bread. That's equivalent as well, yes.
Another question on the dairy. There's always been this controversy about having a lot of dairy and saturated fat, not good for you. So sometimes you hear have a lot of dairy or not. Has it changed over the years?
So the question is, I have to repeat it for the people at home. The question is about dairy and saturated fat, having too much dairy and the saturated fat. So if you're choosing a 1% or skim milk, they've removed the fat from it. So skim milk should have pretty much zero fat in it. So you don't really have to worry about the saturated fat in the skim milk. I do always recommend choosing the low fat or fat-free dairy items. That way, if you're doing it, your diet is going to be lower in saturated fat. Yes.
I noticed in the supermarket, one area where you have no idea of the nutritional ingredients is cold cuts. Now, it sounds good to get turkey breast or roast beef or ham, but what do you have to say about the nutritional value
of those? Okay. I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot to mention it in my protein discussion. The question was about cold cuts and what I think about them as nutritionally. And my advice would be to limit them as much as possible because, you know, most cold cuts or cured meats are high in sodium, and a lot of them are high in saturated fat, more like, you know, the roast beef, bologna, pastrami, those types of ham. If you're going to do it, I would say low sodium turkey breast would probably be your best bet, but I would just limit it overall because it's considered a processed meat. You had a question?
Yeah, I have read, and I don't know if it's fallacy, that calcium can be bad for you, that it can clog your arteries. Is that totally a myth?
I have not heard that one. It may be, the question was, does calcium clog our arteries? I have not heard that. Maybe it is in relation to the fact of foods that are high in calcium are usually dairy products, which are higher in saturated fat. And saturated fat is what's bad for our arteries and cholesterol overall.
You might have said it and I missed it. Are supplements good for getting enough D and calcium, or if you're not sure you're getting it from your food?
The question was vitamin D and calcium and supplements if you're not getting enough from your food. So I always recommend when someone wants to take a supplement, if you think you're deficient, always talk to your doctor and ask them for their best recommendation. I would say we probably all need to be taking a vitamin D supplement. I've found where I've worked that most of the people, when I see vitamin D's, it's always low. And, you know, especially us that live on the East Coast, we're not really outside in the sunshine where our body can convert to vitamin D, because we can, you know, make it from the sunshine. As we age, the ability to do that isn't as great. And also we haven't been in the sun, we haven't been outside. And then in the summer, when it comes to summertime, it's usually too hot to be outside, or we're wearing long sleeves, so we're not exposed to the sun. So most of us are deficient in vitamin D. Yes.
How does sodium affect your blood pressure?
What was
the limits for salt?
Oh, limits for salt? What
Blood pressure.
For people with high blood pressure? Usually they recommend people in the hospital or people in general that have high blood pressure. I've heard usually 2 grams or 2,000 milligrams a day, or about 2,400 if you want to be like super accurate.
So how does the sodium affect your blood pressure?
Oh boy, that's a deep question. It has to do, I would have to look it up honestly to get back to you. But it has to do with your kidneys and, oh gosh, what's that hormone? Anti-diuretic hormone. Kidneys and fluid. The more salt you eat, the more water you'll retain, which is worse for your heart because your heart's got to pump harder. And some people's blood pressure is not affected by sodium. But in general, people who eat a higher sodium diet are usually eating foods that are associated with the risk of high blood pressure, heart disease. I don't know if that answered your question.
Oh.
Yes.
Is there such a thing as getting too much protein after you met your protein
Requirements?
Yes, like when I have my protein today, sometimes I have a shake because of a lot of protein.
The question was, is there sort of a point where you can have too much protein? You know, we do need protein, but I think a lot of times, especially if you're having protein shakes, like a supplement, it's not necessary if you're getting your protein through other ways, whether it's eggs, chicken, fish. I would say either have the protein shake and not have the chicken, fish, whatever else you're eating, one or the other. I mean, there are downsides to having too much protein if you're prone to like kidney stones, or if you have any kind of kidney ailments, or you have any sort of kidney disease. That is not good as well. Yes, I'll go through.
I didn't really hear the question, so I don't know if it's the same thing, but it seems like that amount is very low, like 4 to 6 ounces a day of protein.
That's the recommendation.
Especially people who have blood sugar issues, like you really, I mean, it's very little protein a day.
That's the recommendation according to the USDA for healthy Americans. Yeah. A lot of times people are eating more than what is recommended.
You didn't mention peanut butter as a food. No, we don't associate peanut butter with older adults, but
yes, I mentioned it with the protein. Yep.
With that protein and any other negative aspect.
So any nut butter, I qualified it as nut butter because some people do almond butter. It is counted as a protein, but you have to remember 1 tablespoon is about 1 serving. While nut butter is considered a protein, too much of it is not good either because of the high calorie value associated with it. Just like nuts, 1 serving is about a half an ounce to an ounce, which is like maybe the size of my thumb is about an ounce, I believe. So while nuts and seeds are good, they do have omega-3 fatty acids, they have some protein. You just need to watch the portion sizes. You had another
There's a
question.
lot of fad diets going around, keto, et cetera, et cetera. What are your feelings about the raw diet, which seems to be very popular, especially out on the West Coast in California, then it comes towards the East Coast?
So I will tell people to run when they hear fad diet. The question was about fad diets and what I think.
Especially the raw diet.
So, I mean, if I want to know, I would have to see studies. First of all, people, when they're talking about fad diets, should ask to see the research behind it, why people are doing it. Everybody is built differently. Someone who eats only raw, they might feel great on it. The next person who does it might feel terrible. It might not make them feel good. I would say if you're removing whole food groups from your diet, because then if you're doing raw, you're not eating any meat. Um, you know,
Well, they are eating protein. I mean, people in my family are on the raw diets, but all their fruits and vegetables are totally raw, nothing steamed, nothing.
right, right. But they're not eating any kind of fish, or where they're getting their vitamin D. It would have to be plant-based fortified foods. Where they're getting their vitamin B12, because again, more of a vegan diet. It's going to be deficient in a lot of nutrients. And I like to say, what is the quality of life? And is it sustainable? Can you eat that way for the rest of your life? I had someone who came to see me, they were on keto for 2 years. She said she lost 60 pounds, she felt great, but she had no quality of life because she could only eat like 20 grams of carbohydrate a day. That's like equivalent to a slice of bread and a little more. There's no, how are you going to eat that way for your entire life? I think we need to focus more on not the fad or what's, newest and greatest thing. How about just focusing on smaller portion sizes, whole foods, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, lean protein? Yes.
If you cook a chicken breast with the skin and bone, but you take the skin off, is that still a lot worse than just?
I would still count that as skinless. Yeah. I would still count that as a skinless chicken breast. Yeah. So like if you make a baked chicken and you remove the skin, yeah, that's fine. Yes.
Seltzer as good as water to drink.
I prefer seltzer over what the question was, is seltzer as good as water? I prefer seltzer myself. I see nothing wrong with it. It's just water with bubbles.
Okay.
Yep.
What time of day should you have your main meal? What's eating too late, and you have to have 3 meals a day?
The question was, what time should you have your main meal? What was the other question? What's the latest you should be eating, and do you need 3 meals a day? So, okay. I really don't believe in like, you have to look at a bunch of factors. If you can do your main meal at lunch and it works for you, then it's the best for you. If you live a lifestyle where you work and having your main meal at night is better, then that's the best for you. I don't think we should have I don't think there should be rules or are rules around that. As far as eating 3 meals a day, oh boy, I've actually someone was talking about it. Research does show that it is better to have 3 meals a day as far as blood sugar control too, especially if you're worried about that, controlling your blood sugar and levels of insulin and hormones. Having at least 3 meals a day is better. Yes.
What are your feelings about acid versus diets, especially with water, changing the pH?
So the question is about alkaline diets.
Can you just speak up a little bit regarding the questions? They're having a tough time at home.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
That's
I'm
okay. It's
sorry.
hard. I know.
The question was about alkaline diets. I don't believe in the alkaline acid diet. So I can't really speak on it because I don't know enough research about it. I don't think that it's been thoroughly studied.
It's easier for your system and the digestion to go with the pH higher than 7.
So
Or 8 and 9.
I've heard that is kind of not based on research. I've heard, from what I've read and in our, dietitian groups, we don't really believe in that. Not sure that it's backed by any science. Any other questions here? Yes.
What are your thoughts about artificial sweeteners?
Oh, artificial. There are
Just
some
repeat
people.
your question.
Oh,
I'm so
sorry. What do I think about artificial sweeteners? So for some people, that's the way that they have to go. If you're going to use an artificial sweetener, I would say to choose one that is more of a natural one, which would be Truvia or stevia or monk fruit, something like that, and avoid the saccharin and aspartame.
Can I just add something?
Yeah.
I grew my own stevia. You can buy it in the spring when they have all the herbs and stuff. And plants, and mine grew about, I don't know, a foot and a half tall. And if you take one individual leaf and chew on it, you go, oh my God, it tastes like real sugar. So you can grow your own too.
Someone
Packets, but just for the fun of seeing what it's like.
Someone had just mentioned in the group here that she had grown her own stevia plant and was able to take off a leaf and chew on it, and it tastes like sugar. Yes, I do think if you're going to do an alternate sugar, do like a Truvia or stevia. Diabetics, that's one way that they can, enjoy the tastes of sugar, but controlling their blood sugar. Yes.
Is monk fruit sweetener nutritional or nutritious?
The question was, is monk fruit sweetener nutritious? I wouldn't say it's nutritious. It's an alternate to sugar. So it's another way to sweeten your, coffee, tea, bake with it, just an alternate sweetener. Any other questions in the group here? I have questions here from the people online. If you want to stay while I answer them, you're more than welcome. Otherwise, any other questions in the group here? Okay, I'm going to just read these questions and answer them for the people that are online. Are there, and some of them might have been answered already, are there supplements that we may have taken in our 40s and 50s that need to be cut back or increased when we hit 60s and beyond? I can't answer that question, unfortunately, because I don't know what supplements you might have taken in your 40s or 50s. If you're concerned you're taking too much of something, I would talk to your doctor about it. Is it true eating uncooked vegetables like string beans provide more fiber but not as much? Oh, yeah. Is it true eating uncooked veggies like string beans provides more fiber but not as much nutrition as it would if it was lightly cooked or blanched? So the real difference with uncooked versus cooked is anytime you cook anything, you are destroying some of the nutrition in it. It doesn't mean it's bad for you. No, I'm just happy when people eat vegetables, whether they're raw or cooked. People are not eating enough, so eat them raw, eat them cooked. I'm happy. Is it true that fruit and other naturally occurring sugars metabolize slower? I don't believe that they metabolize slower. I think that when you're eating fruit, it is not just sugar. It is vitamins and minerals and fiber. Fiber especially slows down your digestion. When it slows down the digestion, you're not it's not being broken down as quickly. So I always tell my diabetics, you know, fiber helps slow down the rise in blood sugar. Okay. Could you please translate protein needs into grams versus ounces? So 1 ounce of protein is about 7 grams of protein. Okay. And, you know, the guidelines that we put up, I think women it's 5 to 6 ounces a day. So 6 times 7 would be 42 or something. Those are basic guidelines. You know, we just want you to hit those needs. Everybody is different depending on your activity level, your age, your gender. You might need more protein. Those are just guidelines. Do you feel that 100% cocoa has a good place in a diet? No sugar chocolate. If you enjoy no sugar chocolate, a good place. I mean, there's been studies that have shown that dark chocolate does have some benefit to it, but I'm okay with 90% dark chocolate. I don't know how much of it you eat, but every now and then it's fine. Can you eat too many vegetables? I do not believe so. I mean, how many is too many? If some people eat an all raw diet, they're eating only vegetables. And then there's people who are vegetarian and vegans, and that's pretty much all their diet would be vegetables. Does yogurt count as a protein? Well, when it does have protein in it, and if you're choosing yogurts, I would definitely choose Greek yogurt over regular. It does have a little more protein in it. If you're doing a plain Greek yogurt, you know, it has very little sugar as well. However, when we're teaching diabetics, yogurt counts as a carbohydrate. It's kind of like one of those in-between things. Can you overeat on lean protein like fish? You can overeat. I don't know if you mean, can you eat too much protein? You can overeat on anything. I'm not sure if you mean in the sense of eating too much protein or eating too many calories. If you're eating fish and other lean protein, I would definitely recommend baking, broiling, grilling, those methods over frying. Wild salmon is very expensive. What's your opinion on farm-raised salmon? You know, I think whatever anybody can afford is what is best. If you're eating salmon and it's farm-raised, buy the farm-raised salmon. It's like if you organic versus non-organic. I just want you to buy the fruit and vegetables. It doesn't have to be organic. If using blood pressure meds, should I check with the doctor before eating chia seeds? I don't believe so. It's just seeds. I don't think you would have to consult with your doctor before eating that. What is a good nutritional information website? MyPlate.gov is a good informational website. And eatright.org, which is the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. I believe that's the website, eatright.org. All right, sorry if I'm going too fast. I don't know how many people are still listening. If you already have heart disease, how much more can this plan help? Well, I would say, wouldn't you want to try and incorporate more fruits, vegetables, low sodium? I do believe it could prolong your life, but who knows? Does whole wheat pasta have more gluten? I honestly, I think I don't know that they measure the amount of gluten. It is all, they both have gluten in it. I don't know that it's more or less. I think it's kind of apples to apples. Possible to overhydrate, coffee and tea included. I mean, you have to drink a lot of water and beverages to overhydrate. You can always look at your urine. If it's clear, it's good. If it's dark, you need to hydrate more. How many eggs per week? It depends. Are there still people listening? Okay. How many eggs per week? Well, I don't know your medical history, so I can't answer per individual person. I am an egg fan. If you're concerned about cholesterol, I would say limit it to maybe 4 a week, but for egg yolks. Egg whites are fine. The cholesterol and fat comes in the egg yolks. How many grams of refined sugar per day? They say to limit added sugar to 25 grams or less per day. 25 grams per or less per day of added sugar. So you'd have to look at the nutrition labels, and there's 4 grams of sugar per teaspoon of sugar. And I think that's the end of the question.
Any suggestions for those who need to gain weight?
Oh, suggestions if you need to gain weight. Add things that are good sources of good fats, avocados, nuts, seeds, nut butter, full fat yogurt, full fat cheese. You can always buy supplements, Boost, Ensure, and that's.
Thank you so much. That was okay. Thank you so much for joining us today. Nicole, can't thank you enough. That was so interesting, comprehensive, excellent, lots of good information.